Hi, this is Joe again with another review. For the sake of this video, which is going to be my first review in 2023, I'm going to be discussing the 1981 film On Golden Pond, starring Henry Fonda and his real-life daughter Jane Fonda and Katharine Hepburn. Of course, this film was, sad to say, the last film role that Henry Fonda starred in, because he died like a few months, not too long after the 1982 Academy Awards, which of course for the films that came out in 1981. And for his last role, he ended up winning the Oscar for Best Actor. Katharine Hepburn won for Best Actress, and the movie also won for Best Adapted Screenplay, but didn't win the Oscar for Best Picture because that award went to Chariots of Fire, which I previously reviewed on my YouTube channel. Of course, On Golden Pond is based on the 1979 film, the same play, I should say, the 1979 play of the same name, and it was fairly got rave reviews, and I believe it got rave reviews at the time, and it was made into a film. Obviously, the same name. And the only highlight for poors out there is you get to see a 44-year-old Jane Fonda in a bikini. And Jane Fonda was 44 at the time the movie came out, or at least the year On Golden Pond came out. She turned 44 years old. So you get to see a 44-year-old Jane Fonda in a bikini, which of course a lot of people go when I think it was just before Jane started doing those exercise videos that came out, in the 80s, or later on in the decade of the 80s. But what this film is really about a father-daughter relationship, which, I think it works better if you have an actual, real-life father-daughter playing the two parts, and that kind of worked out well in the film. But it doesn't really explain, at least in the film version, it doesn't really explain what the actual problems were. It went into a little bit, but not enough to hold my interest. And the story is two old folks, two old senior citizens, Henry Fonda and Katharine Hepburn, who every summer go to their house. They would call it like a summer house or summer cottage on Golden Pond. That's the name of the lake. His name is Golden Pond, and they have this house, and they go there and spend the summers there. And while they were there, the daughter, played by, of course, like I mentioned earlier, Jane Fonda, comes with her current boyfriend, who was played by Dabney Coleman. Actually, one of the few serious roles that Dabney Coleman had in his movie career. And he recently turned, I think, 91 years old, I think, recently. So to see him in it, because Dabney Coleman is more known for his comedy and not so much for drama. The only two drama roles that I know that he did was On Golden Pond, and movie came out 2 years later, War Games, as a serious role. Anyway, they come there, and Dabney Coleman's there with his son. And for some dumb reason, Jane Fonda and Dabney Coleman's characters leaves the son, or Dabney Coleman leaves his son with these two strangers, and it's been there, and he stays there for a month. Dabney Coleman's son in the film stays there with Henry Fonda and Katharine Hepburn for, I think, about a month, when Jane Fonda and Dabney Coleman go off traveling in Europe for a month. And when Dabney Coleman doesn't, you don't see Dabney Coleman anymore for the rest of this film, unfortunately. But you see Jane Fonda eventually come back, and she tells him that her and Dabney Coleman's character got married in Europe without the son there, without her parents being there. She ends up getting married, and then at the end of the film, they worked out whatever problems they had. I mean, it was kind of lame, and it is a short film. I mean, it's under 2 hours, so So it's about an hour 50 minutes. So, and usually at that time, if a movie, in my opinion, if a movie is under 2 hours, 9 times out of 10, the Academy, the Motion Picture Academy is not going to award an Oscar to a movie that's less than 2 hours. But there's been exceptions, of course, over the years. But for at that time, in the late 70s and the early 80s, where this film was, you have to be at least 2.5 hours long for them to even consider to be a Oscar-winning film, or give the award to a film, at least in my opinion. And this film was under 2 hours, and it didn't really. My one nitpick is, of course, it didn't focus on so much of the so-called family drama. It just the only thing that was mentioned was that Jane Fonda's character was complaining, oh, he's always nitpicking and everything, he's always horning on me and yada yada yada, which is you see on every Family Channel or Lifetime movie you have a storyline like that. But but on this film, it didn't really get so much the point of view of why Henry Fonda was always so tough on Jane Fonda's character. You didn't really have his side of the story in this film, and usually in films like this, you usually have both sides, and both sides of the argument going on, except being Henry Fonda being constantly complaining about stuff throughout the film. That's about as far as it goes. I mean, you didn't even hear his side of the story about how he, why he was so tough on his only daughter, why he was so tough on her. It didn't really go into that much, if at all. And that was my one. And it's been many years since I've seen this one. I saw it maybe once. And like I said, the only thing that sticks out in my mind was seeing Jane Fonda in a bikini. I mean, that's the only. Except for maybe the movie she did, Barbarella, which was many years earlier, back in the 60s, it was the only time where you saw any sex, that Jane Fonda showed any sex appeal. Because most of the time she doesn't show sex appeal. I mean, I'm not saying she's not a beautiful woman, I'm not saying she wasn't sexy at the time, at the height of her movie career, but she's not a real, what you call a sex symbol, except for maybe 2 movies, and this is one of them. Because she showed off her body. Anytime a beautiful woman like Jane Fonda shows off her body, she shows sex appeal. But that's the only thing worth in this movie. Even though you did have the last performance of Henry Fonda, and he gave a great performance, this was with Katharine Hepburn. And one of the running gags in this film was that Katharine Hepburn always called him an old coot. Called Henry Fonda an old coot. And I thought the on-screen chemistry between the two characters, between Henry Fonda and Katharine Hepburn, was terrific. And I thought that, I think the weakest part of Golden Pond was the relationship with this kid and Henry Fonda and Katharine Hepburn. I mean, there's no rhyme or reason that this kid should even be in this movie. I mean, because he's not Jane Fonda's son. Well, he becomes her stepson, Jane Fonda's stepson, by the end of this movie. But for the most part, there's no rhyme or reason for this kid to even be there. It's like the Cousin Oliver effect, from the Brady Bunch. There's no rhyme or reason for this kid to even be there. But he was there. And I thought that the relationship between Henry Fonda and Henry Fonda, Katharine Hepburn, and this kid was really one of the better parts of the film, even though it doesn't make sense. But it was one of the better parts of this film. And I mean, it's not the. I mean, it's a good story, but it's not. Doesn't seem enough, especially with the so-called drama between Jane Fonda and Henry Fonda. There's not enough there to say why are they so estranged? And Jane Fonda tried to do her best to explain why she was estranged, because how Henry Fonda always treated her. But you never heard Henry Fonda's side of it. I mean, that kind of bothered me when watching this film for the first time in many years. But as a film, you gotta like the performances, and that's what worked in this movie. The performances, the way the movie was shot. You have some beautiful scenes of the lake of Golden Pond, and you have that in the film. It's beautiful, wonderfully made. The performances were terrific, but it's not enough substance. That's probably why he didn't win the Oscar for Best Picture, because it wasn't enough of the conflict between Jane Fonda and Henry Fonda. There's not enough there. That's probably what killed this movie in terms of winning the Oscar for Best Picture for 1981. But if you like a good, at least a sugary, almost a sugary sweet drama, you can check out Golden Pond. And then actually recommend the movie, but if you want to see a good family drama, check this movie out. So that's my review of the movie on Golden Pond. Please click on the video, please rate it, please subscribe to my channel, please forward this video onto your Facebook pages. You can check out all my reviews and on my YouTube channel at rallyc.com. It's all WDY, c.com. There's a homepage and a rally reviewer, Chris Lee Moore, and please check out all of his videos on his website. Thanks for watching, and catch you next time.